Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Tracy Kimberg is a therapist who specialises in working with both teenagers and couples. Her expertise in relationship building definitely helps with her networking. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today, Tracy.
It's lovely to be here. I'm excited.
So, Tracy, you're a relationship therapist, but your background's in nursing. What was it that drew you to the caring professions?
Well, I think it's genetically imprinted into my makeup. My dad, he's a gynecologist, and my mother was a professional nurse. So I think I grew up with a lot of caring people around me, and we were a very big family. I looked after my brothers. They were a lot younger than me, and I always seemed to be the carer in friendship groups. And as I got older, I knew that I had to do something to help people. So that's how I got into that.
And how long did you spend in nursing?
Well, I went to nursing actually straight after school, and I was a nurse for probably, it must have been about, let's work it out, must have been about 18 years, 19 years.
Long time.
It is a long time. It is a very long time. But nursing, you evolve as a nurse, just like you do as a human being. And, I started off maybe as a pediatric nurse and evolved into ICU and then went to psychiatric type of nursing. So, you evolve so it doesn't get boring, which is great.
Yeah. And so when did you realise that you wanted to move away from that and do something a bit different?
I'm quite an independent person, and I realised that the hours that you have to work as a nurse wasn't really working for me as a mother of 3 daughters. And, I knew that I had to do something where I could manage my own time according to my responsibilities at home. So I actually initially started working self-employed when my youngest daughter was born. It was 2005. But when I decided, okay, I'm going to study and rather be a therapist, was about 7 years ago. And I knew that I had to do something that I could do for when I was older, so that wouldn't take so much physical expectations from me. Nursing is very hard work, lifting heavy people, and it's very hard work. So I decided to rather become a therapist, and I did that straight after my divorce, actually.
So therapy is, it is vast. There's all sorts of different types of therapies. What areas did you explore?
Initially, when I started being a therapist, I wanted answers for my own life, and I think all therapists are like that, I think, trying to figure out more about life and make more sense out of their own life. But I think I would, if I had to be really honest today and say I didn't have a really great teenage years as a youngster, so I had this compassion for teenagers. So I started off with teenage mental health, and I still see a lot of teenagers today, but I started off mostly with teenagers, and also helping people that had exited unhealthy relationships. So that was my focus in the beginning. But as people got to hear about what I do, and I had more and more referrals, it evolved to becoming more into teenagers, and on the other hand, couples. So I help couples at the moment quite a lot to have a healthy relationship and grow together, instead of becoming this space where you become resentful and detached from each other.
And so how is it that you help them? What form does the therapy take?
Are you specifically with couples, Liz? Are you asking
With
about
with with
couples?
both groups.
With both. Well, I'm a qualified hypnotherapist and NLP master practitioner, as well as a counseling therapist. So I incorporate everything into the therapy with the people that are in front of me, because we're all individuals, and I believe that the one thing might not work for this person, but it will work very well for the next person. And the same with couples. Some couples come with a crisis situation to me, and I initially just help them work through that exact crisis. But then I'm very, very tuned into using the John Gottman principles. He's a psychologist from America that has done loads of research on having a healthy, happy relationship and what people do that actually destroy their relationships and what you can do instead. So I bring those principles into the relationship therapy and help people understand how certain behaviors can affect your partner and your relationship. And it's more like an awakening of the couples so that they can change certain behaviors that often happen unconsciously without them realizing. It's very, very beautiful to watch it all unfold, I must say.
So what are some of the sort of negative patterns that we can fall into?
Well, there are quite a few of them, but I'll highlight a couple of them. The first one I'd like to highlight is the way we argue is sometimes not very healthy. Some people argue with a contemptuous type of behavior where they name call the other person or try and put them down. That can definitely destroy a marriage and your partner. It breaks down trust, and the place of safety gets destroyed. So that your partner won't feel safe to argue or have a conversation if that's the type of reaction that they're going to get. And then there's stonewalling, which is one partner might try and avoid an argument and shut down and think that if I just keep quiet, we won't have this argument. Maybe they had a parent that was very loud and shouty, and as soon as their partner starts getting passionate about getting their point across, they shut down and think, oh, this is going to turn into a huge big argument, and then shut down. But the effect it has on the partner is, frustration, and they feel that the partner doesn't want to actually sort out the problem. They just want to ignore it and make it go away, which is not the case.
Yeah.
And then criticism, I'll add that one because a lot of us are guilty of that, is verbal criticism and criticizing your partner in your head as well. Thinking that your partner's not good enough and telling your partner that they should be this or should be that. And criticizing everything they do and not noticing the things that they do that are actually helpful and kind and loving in the relationship.
Yeah. Do you think there are sort of particular life stages or milestones that people find really challenging? Do you find that you see people who come to you at sort of similar times of their lives?
Yes, definitely. I think the most, if I had to highlight a couple of them, it's when you have children. Children sometimes can cause a lot of new adjustments that are difficult to make within a relationship. Then when the teenage years enter, people often have problems coping through that stage. Maybe they have a different idea about how to raise their children, or the teenagers are rebellious and get into trouble with drugs and drink and that type of thing, and they are just not able to cope with it. And then the next phase is where we hit the middle years, where the children are leaving the house. And obviously when women hit menopause and men I think also hit menopause, although it's not menopause, but you know, that phase where you are now entering a new chapter of your life, and your hormones change. That is a huge factor that affects a lot of the couples that I see in the age group of, I'd say, between 40 and 60. That menopause and how that affects a relationship. And then careers, things are very stressful at work, and people bring that at home. Bring that home and take that out on their partner, or they aren't able to actually communicate their stresses that are going on at work at home, and it affects the relationship in some way. And obviously, then retirement is the last phase where I have a lot of clients that come and see me when they hit retirement, and all of a sudden all they have is each other. And it's that frustration of, who is this person? I don't even like them anymore. How can we reconnect some way and rebuild the friendship that you know, was maybe neglected as they were going through the other phases of life. So there's quite a few phases.
And how do you help people to navigate these difficult times and help them move forward?
I think the first part is to help them get to know each other again. We have so many expectations in relationships, and sometimes our expectations are unrealistic. And how we can look and visit those expectations that we have of each other in a relationship and our partner can make a huge shift in the relationship. And realize that, you know, your partner is not the person that you married or met 10, 20, 30 years ago, and that you've both evolved as people. And maybe you forgot to actually keep nurturing that friendship. And Gottman calls it the love maps. How do you really keep learning those love maps of each other? Because as we get older, our map gets out of date, and we need to keep understanding our partner's needs and their interests and their dreams, and what they don't like doing anymore, and what they would like to try maybe anymore. And the same as with on an intimacy level, it's about finding out from each other, you know, when your intimacy starts changing as you get older, you know, talk about it and see what does your partner need from you to feel a connection on an intimate level, and how you can work around together to build that new map that you have to navigate forward and grow your relationship. Even if you are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you can still grow as a couple.
Yeah. So let's talk about networking now. Networking, of course, is all about relationships, so it ought to be something that you're good at. How do you use networking in your business?
Well, I wouldn't be able to do my business if I didn't network. And I use it for various reasons. The one is to make connections and relationships, build relationships with people that I probably would never have met otherwise, from all different fields. I love getting to know people that don't do what I do as well. Because when you're in this field, your life is actually quite isolated, because you and your client in your office.
Yeah.
So with networking, I love sharing about what I do, and you know, helping people find their ideal client, and hopefully when they meet somebody that needs me, they'll remember me. I believe networking is about paying it forward more than wanting.
Yeah.
And about really getting to know the people in the room or on the screen. You know, sometimes we are very quick to make a judgment of just a person by looking at them. And what I love about networking is when you have the breakout rooms and you get the opportunity to actually talk to people, I'm often very, very surprised and pleasantly surprised at how lovely people actually are when they're willing and when they're willing to really share about themselves and be vulnerable, because I think networking is about letting down that guard and really being vulnerable and showing who you are as a person, rather than trying to brag about what you do for your job.
Yeah.
I love really asking personal questions and getting to know people on that level. That to me is far more valuable.
Yeah. And what kind of networking do you go to? You mentioned about people on the screen there. So obviously you do some online networking. Do you do in-person networking as well?
I do in-person networking, but it's more like a get-together from the networking groups. If they have an event or something, then I like to go to that. But I do mostly online because for me, it's time saving.
Yeah.
I enjoy the time saving factor of it. I live in the country, so maybe if I was in London or a city, it would be different, because it's just a quick half an hour drive and you're there. But for me, I live in Dorset, which, as you know, is in the middle of nowhere. So I need to make use of the online networking, and I don't go to very many networking groups. I go to a couple, I choose them carefully, and I kind of build my family, as I like to call it, of networkers in that room, and it's lovely.
So the networking groups that you have chosen, and you said you've been quite careful about choosing, how did you go about choosing them and how did you find them?
Well, when I started networking, I just didn't really know how it worked, so I just jumped in and went to quite a few. But I soon knew that the type of person I like are real people and that are willing to be vulnerable and themselves. And it's not about, you know, a bragging exercise to go to a networking event. So I went to a couple. Usually the networking groups offer you a free ticket to come for one or two sessions, and I went to those. And I just let my intuition guide me. So I found one that's quite a large networking group, but they have little pods. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. Can I say?
Yes, of course.
I belong to the only networking group, which is quite a big group, but they have little pods, so you can shift around in the pods and still get to know new people. They're even international, which is great. And then I have one called the WOW Network Group, which is a load of self-employed women that support each other. And those are the only two networking groups I go to. I've been invited to one which is a public speaking networking group. I think you might have actually invited me to that. I can't think of its name now, but I've been invited to that one, and that looks really amazing, where you get the opportunity to, it's the speaker connections, I've just remembered.
Ah, right.
Where you can meet people who are either looking for people to speak at events about what they do, or guest speakers for your programs that you might do on live, or like you with your podcast, where you can find guests that are suitable for what you talk about.
So networking is clearly very important in your business. So if people want to join your network and get to know you a bit better and more about your business, what's the best place for people to find you, Tracy?
Well, people can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram. They can just type in Tracy Kimberg, relationship expert, and they should find me like that. Or they can come and have a visit at the Only networking group, which they can also find online. It's I don't know what the Only stands for actually. It's ONLE, all in capital letters. And yeah, it's a lovely group of people, very friendly and very laid back, which is lovely.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time today, and the best of luck with your networking and, of course, your business for the next year.
Thank you very much for such a lovely opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.